In talking about Swamiji, his life of discipleship, and how, of course, it benefits us, it's been an inspiration hearing all that was just said and also what we've shared so far this weekend. And in thinking about the topic, I thought about one aspect of Swamiji's discipleship that is newer for us. Swamiji has been the channel of the Guru for all of us. Not one of us met Yoganandaji in person. But he has been the channel of the Guru. And for some of us, he's played that role even directly, where we feel Yogananda is our Guru, but also he is our Guru through Swamiji. Swamiji never said to someone, I am your Guru, you are my disciple. He said, everyone is Master's disciple, referring it to a higher power. It's interesting to note that Master did the same thing. When a woman asked him, oh, so Dr. Lewis was your first disciple in America, Master, who had been very friendly and affable and chatty till then, said, that's what they say. And she was surprised by this change in his demeanor, and he said kindly, no one is my disciple, they are God's disciples. He wouldn't treat that relationship lightly, and he wouldn't pull it to himself. He would again offer it up. But one aspect of Swamiji's discipleship that is new for us is that Swamiji had his Guru in the body, and then he went on with his Guru not in the body. And for us it has been 4 months. For Swamiji, he was with Master 3.5 years, and then he went on for 61 years without his Guru in the body. I mean, 61 years is a lifespan for some people. And that's how long he went. And he did it successfully. First, how do we know he did it successfully? Because none of us met Master, and yet we practice Hong Sa as Master taught it. We know the energization exercises, the Om technique as Master taught them. We know Kriya as Master taught it. And anytime you want to check the teachings and you hear, I'm always pleased when we play a recording of Master and he does the prayer. And people say, oh, that's how we do the prayer. Yeah. Oh. You know, may thy love shine for, hey, Master saying the words we're saying. It's the litmus test. Even some of the phrases we use, you hear Master say, how did he know we say that? It's because it is as if we have lived with him, as if we have learned from him. I think part of Swami's humility, in addition to being something he had perfected, was his simple recognition that his Guru was so much greater than he could see. That what was the point in doing anything but being humble before that? I recognized that when I felt the same way around Swamiji. How could we feel anything but humble in the face of Swamiji's greatness? It wasn't a competition. But at the same time, Swamiji was trying to make us like him. That's why he was here. That's why Master was here. So, Swamiji was successful in those 61 years in making Master real to everyone else, to all who came. And how did he do it? How did he do it? So, I was thinking that when I first came to Master, first came to Swami, I first met Swami, I couldn't help asking him, because although, yes, it's true, I learned all this sort of indirectly through Master, wouldn't it be nice to also have been with Master? And I had these books and so on. I have to mention that we have Master's techniques, as I started to say. We have Master's writings directly through Swamiji, and also their application in so many different areas of life. But we also had Master's disciple, who carried the vibration of Master's consciousness, who carried even the physical touch, as it says there must be one physical contact between the Guru and disciple. And Master had given that to Swamiji, and Swamiji had passed that on to people even in Master's own lifetime, when Master was still able to give the touch, but he said to Swamiji, no, you give it. So, These, though, the disciple is the ultimate prize to have. I say that because then that's again what we are charged with. Baduri Mahashaya, when Master asked him, why not write a book for the benefit of the world? Baduri Mahashaya said, I am training disciples. They and their students will be proof against the natural disintegration of time and the unnatural interpretation of the critics. When you have a disciple, he can tell you, I don't know what Master would think of an iPhone. Thought of an iPhone, but you can say, well, Master loved all new ways of disseminating teachings and truth and so on. So I'm sure he loves the different Ananda apps that are on the iPhone. Because you knew his spirit and you can communicate that. So, having said all this, what about addressing the fact that we weren't with Master? And for some of us, some of you may be here saying, gosh, I wish I were with Swami longer. It's not fair, you had all this time, I didn't have much time. Every one of us here thinks the same thing. I wish I had met Swamiji in 1926 when he was born. We want more. And I said to Swamiji, sir, I have to admit, my first conversation with him, I'm disappointed that I didn't get to live with Master, and I'm disappointed that I don't get to live with you, because I was just visiting and then going back. And he said, God gives you what you need. And when you need more, he will give you more. And that changed me, because I was thinking, well, God gives me, he gives other people what I want. And he gives me what I get, But Swami Vijayji was saying, no, God wants you free, even more than you yourself want to be free. Master said that too. God regrets putting us in all this mess. He's very sorry for what he did. He wants us free. So what he's given us is that which will make us free the fastest. So there's no point saying, yeah, but if I had, this and that, then we don't know. You're on the fast track. Whatever direction it's going, no matter how it looks like, as Anand was saying, it's this way for someone, it's the other way for someone else. You are on the fast track. And God is giving you what you need. He's giving all of us what we need. And then he added, as Master used to say, don't be like the greedy man who looks at the platter and not at his plate. Master told the story that there was a little boy in his school. He said he was so greedy. And I always would tell the cook to give him twice, meaning a double portion. But the whole time he was eating, he would stare at the platter because he was afraid of what he was going to miss. And Master would tell the boy, you always are looking at the platter, but you forget, I've doubled your food. And he's doubled all our food. We can be sure of that.
I can be sure.
So then how did Swamiji do it? There are three things I'd like to mention that he mentioned of the ways that he kept in touch with Master after Master's passing. And I know he will keep in touch with us. In fact, someone said to us, right after Swamiji's passing, there was basically a big wave of grace, which still feels like it's continuing, but it was potent then. And the one person said to Dharmini and me, this feels so wonderful, but I'm afraid it's a little bit like a good meditation, like a period where you're going deep in meditation and then it always ends. And I just hope that this grace of feeling Swamiji so closely won't end. And before I could even think, I said, well, I don't think Swamiji is going to lose interest in us. And she said, a good point. Of course, he's going to be keenly interested in everything that's going on. About the fan, saying it's a lovely community. He may remind someone, don't forget the fan. Meaning Swamiji's here, not in a detail-oriented, critical way, in a supportive, loving way, encouraging in every way, and watching inside each one of us. So he said, every word of Master's I have meditated on in all these years. Every gesture, every facial expression I've meditated on to try to understand. And sometimes years later I would say, he said, that's what he meant. Any interaction we've had with Swamiji, no matter how trivial, anytime we've seen him in person, anything he's written, any video of his that we've seen, you may have the experience where you're thinking about some issue and then you pick a random video or a random talk or a random book and you open it or you hear it and he's addressing exactly what you're going through. When I first met Swamiji, speaking of meditating on something, when I first met Swamiji, the first words I said to him were, "Swamiji, I'm Dharmaraj." And his first words to me were, "Oh, you're Dharmaraj. Somehow I thought you'd be taller." And like Dharmini was saying, that went in, and as Anand said, I was processing, but mostly I just, I mean, what really, I didn't really have anything to offer back. But then he added, "Isn't it funny how we build up impressions of people?" And I just went, and it was much later that I realized he was saying, forget your impression of me that you've built up. Leave that aside. Get to know me inside. Get to know me as I am. And another thing that Swamiji mentioned that he would do always is talk to Master. Just ask him questions. All these 61 years. He often would say, someone would ask me a question and I would say, I don't know, but then I would ask Master, not for myself, but because that person had asked it, suddenly I would know the answer. He said that all the time. We can do that too. I know in the beginning, I was concerned even of my own relationship with Master because I took discipleship, but, did I just sort of take a vow, go through a class, take a vow, get the blessing, and now I'm a disciple? How do I know it's real? How do I know that Master signed off on it? How do I know I didn't just kind of slip through the cracks somehow? And I said to Acharya Dhyana, Nayaswami Dhyana, who we were in America at that time, and I said, how do I know he's accepted me? And she said, of course he's accepted you. If you know Dhyana, you know what I mean. She said, have you accepted him? And I thought, it's a very valid point. Have I accepted him? Have I been talking to him all this time? Have I been getting to know him even? I mean, we build a friendship by being interested in what our friend is interested in, by getting to know them, by learning more about them. This relationship, what was I doing to cultivate it? But in terms of Swamiji answering inwardly, or Master answering inwardly, there was a man who came who was new to Ananda, brand new, had been involved with other spiritual groups, and Swami came for the first time to Ananda village after a long time. This is when Swamiji was living in Italy. And this man was, Swamiji came in and the man kind of stood, in the aisle, sort of hoping, because Swamiji would often walk through an aisle and greet different ones, and the man kind of stood there, and Swamiji went past, and he thought, okay, well, maybe I'll get him on the way out. And so Swamiji gave the whole satsang, and then this man, Patrick, who told me the story, was standing in the back, and Swamiji went through and he was greeting every single one, and then he came to this man, Patrick, and Patrick was just like this with his palms folded, and Swamiji just went right past him. And Patrick just thought, oh well. And suddenly he felt someone grab his hand, and he turned and Swamiji had grabbed his hand and said, nice to see you, Pat. And then he walked on. And they had never met. He still doesn't know how Swamiji knew his name, except Swamiji knew his name. Just like Swamiji knows your name, because he knew beyond that. Another story that came up where Swamiji verified this was a friend and I were trying to decide something and we wanted Swamiji's advice on it. And so we emailed him, and then later we meditated together, and my friend after the meditation said, Swamiji doesn't want it. And I said, oh no, Swamiji does want it, because I want it. So he must, we at least have to get his answer in the email to be sure. And later, we were with a group of people, and in Swamiji was there. This was in America, and Swamiji came out, and my friend and I happened to be standing there, and he said, "Oh, you know, I'm sorry that I didn't have a chance to reply to your email, but I think you got my answer in your meditation." I also, when talking to Swamiji about, I wish I had lived with Master, I wish I had lived with you, he said, the Guru is inside. And I thought, well, no, that's not enough. And he said, the Guru is inside. He said, you know the story of the Avadhut, or that man who had 20 gurus? This is a story from the Srimad Bhagavatam of the man who had all these different gurus. And he said, for example, there was a woman cleaning something, and her bangles were tinkling, and so she removed the bangles one by one, but still they tinkled until she removed them all but one, and then it was silent. And so from that, this man learned from the Bangle Guru that when people are around, they will chat needlessly, but when you're alone, you can be silent and inward and with God. And I thought, yes, I had heard that story and so on. And I thought, I don't want 20 gurus. I don't want it to be all on my own and so on. And he said, the Guru is inside. And then I realized, years later, that Swamiji never told that story again. I never heard him once make reference to the man with 20 gurus and so on. I just figured it was part of the common lore, and maybe he had, but I certainly never heard it. And I had just read that story just a few weeks before he made reference to it. Oh, you know the story of the man with the 20 gurus. And yeah, of course I know, because I just read it like every... And then I realized he was saying the Guru is inside. I know you've read this because I'm inside you. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that, as Dharmini was mentioning too, Swamiji said that Yogananda fully entered his consciousness. Near the end of his life, he said, I don't know where Kriyananda ends and Yogananda begins. And he invited Master fully into his consciousness. And we know this also because when he wrote the biography of Yogananda, the chapter that he would share with us over and over again was Yogananda's salient characteristics. All these different qualities that Master had. And every single one he read, he thought, well, but Swamiji, that's what you do. That's exactly how Swamiji is. He was kind. He was compassionate of others. He was forgetful of himself. He cared about the smallest detail of the smallest person's life. He had incredible willpower. And he would describe situations that we could also give the same stories of Swamiji in those, exhibiting those same characteristics. So I say all of this because this is what we can do now. Not just for others, but of course for ourselves. Swamiji made Master real to all of us because Master was real to him. In fact, someone once said to Swamiji said to someone else, the great thing about my Guru's teachings is that they're so real. And the person said, yes, and they're practical. And Swamiji said, that's what I mean by real. You can make them real in your life. I'd like to conclude by just reading. This is the letter Swamiji sent out last year at this time, September 12th of 2012. And I'll just read the first and the last paragraphs. Dear ones, today is my 64th birthday. Spiritual, that is. September 12th, 1948, I was accepted as a disciple by Paramhansa Yogananda. How well I remember that day. And I thank God for all the blessings He has showered upon me in this life. How well I remember the years of seeking that had brought me to Him. And I thank God for all the blessings He has showered upon me in this life. There has been suffering, yes, but as the Sufi saint Rabia said, he is not worthy of God who does not forget all his sufferings in the contemplation of the Beloved. I am grateful for everything, for my tests, perhaps especially, because since all of them have brought me closer to my cosmic beloved. I didn't expect the path to be easy, which is fortunate because it hasn't been. My body, for one thing, has given me trouble all my life. Still, here I am at 86, still energetically serving God. Mentally, I have had my hardships, but I'm grateful for all of them. As Master said, living for God is martyrdom. I am indifferent to whatever punishes my ego. I'm grateful for it, for ego is the one thing we must overcome if we would know God. I am grateful also, however, for all the many true friends God has given me in you all. You are a wealth beyond compare. Thank you. And thank you for helping me to reach this day of supreme gladness in my life. In God's love, Swami. And I think we can say, thank you, Swamiji. Happy spiritual birthday and many happy returns.